Hello everyone, welcome back to day 7 of our 2-week-long California road trip. If you missed the last few episodes, I'd highly encourage you to go back and watch them as we venture into Sequoia and Kings Canyon National Parks, the first two situated in the Sierra Nevada mountain range. The third and most renowned national park in the range is Yosemite National Park. None of you can even try to pretend like you've never heard of this place. I feel like my brother and I were the last two people on Earth to make it here. But it's better late than never, and we were just so excited to get things started. I've heard a lot about Yosemite over the years, and today was the first of 3 days we'd spend within park boundaries. The focus of our first day at the park was to complete the Mist Trail, a strenuous 6-mile loop with nearly 2,200 feet of elevation gain. In the past, my brother and I have stuck to doing 1, 2, or 3-mile hikes on our trips to maximize the amount we'd see in one day. But when visiting Yosemite National Park, it seems like a requirement to do some of the longer, more difficult hikes. Plus, there's no way of knowing whether these longer hikes would show you less than a bunch of shorter hikes until you actually do it. Spoiler, it does. So much so that this actually became my favorite hike I've ever done in a national park. So in this video, I'll be bringing you guys through the entire Mist Trail, showing you which parts are the hardest and what you can expect to see hiking one of the most popular Yosemite trails. Driving up from the Fresno area is interesting, as you wouldn't expect one of the country's key natural wonders to be just a stone's throw away. We enter through the south entrance, which is the furthest away entrance from Yosemite's iconic valley. Upon entering, you'll have the opportunity to turn into the park's sequoia tree section, but after seeing Sequoia and Kings Canyon National Parks, which have some of the prettiest sequoia trees around, we decided to skip this and carry on to a new type of scenery. Yosemite Valley seems to come out of nowhere, as you don't really suspect anything until you enter the famous Wawona Tunnel. The tunnel was designed in a way to present Yosemite Valley in an extremely imposing manner, but in the mornings the lighting doesn't tend to be the best for this reveal, so we'd come back to the tunnel view later on for redemption. Driving through the valley for the first time was an experience to say the least. All of these views that we'd seen pictures and video of were finally being seen through our own lens. First, we drove right by Vernal Falls, which unfortunately is closed for hiking for the season while they do some restoration work, but you can still get a stunning view of the falls from tunnel view, which, as I said, we come back to later on in our visit. Next, we drove towards El Capitan, one of the most unbelievable peaks, or is it a cliff, maybe a rock? I'm not really sure, but you get the point. Then we drove through the lush green trees for a while, which was an absolutely beautiful sight, especially with the sun still coming up. Of course, driving to the end of the valley road for the Mist Trail means that there was something we'd see that you just cannot miss. No, not Half Dome, even though that thing is amazing too, but the majestic Yosemite Falls. After the Mist Trail, we'd have the time to see Yosemite Falls on foot and get up close to the lower falls, so stay tuned for that. We decided to park at the Yosemite Valley Trailhead parking area for Mist Trail, which is a sizable dirt lot with a giant granite peak towering overhead. You then walk half a mile on the side of the road before reaching the trailhead for the Mist Trail. Technically, this did make the hike 7 miles instead of 6, but let's not focus on that. When it comes to longer hikes like this, you really gotta take things one step at a time. Besides, we didn't care, we were just pumped to get things started. You'll know you're approaching the trail once you see the bridge crossing over the Merced River. The first mile of the Mist Trail is one of the more enduring parts, as the trail gets pretty steep and there's not many breaks until you get to the first few viewpoints, like this one where you can see Yosemite Falls peeking out in the corner, or any of the cascading waterfalls in the river. The more ground you cover, the more dramatic the views start to become, and you get so used to gaining elevation that it doesn't even cross your mind after a certain point. Then you reach the Vernal Falls bridge that once again travels over the Merced River, though ironically there's not much of a view of Vernal Falls from there. Not to worry though, if you carry on a little bit longer, you'll start to get your first few looks of this absolutely outstanding waterfall. Vernal Falls instantly became one of my favorite waterfalls I've seen, and also single-handedly explained the name Mist Trail. Because of how hard this fall was flowing, there was mist flying everywhere, and I'm not talking about like most waterfalls where it's a light sprinkle. This portion of the hike will drench you head to toe. They don't call it the Mist Trail for nothing. Look at his hair! Don't worry, you look glorious. There's literally a rainbow over your head.
Nice.
But in my opinion, you should just take it in and embrace it, because there's nothing more that'll tell you this is the land of Mother Nature. The lighting was absolutely unreal this time of day, with light beams shining all over the place and rainbows at every corner. I think I counted 5 different rainbows, all of which were bright and not faded like most rainbows you see in your lifetime. This was thanks to the morning light hitting the spray of the falls, so needless to say, we just chose the perfect time to begin our hike. I also have to shout out this rainbow that combined with the mist to the point where it looked like the breath of a fire rainbow-breathing dragon. I've never seen anything like that anywhere else. Hopefully you took some time to enjoy Vernal Falls from the side angle, because you'll need an energy boost for the next steep stair section. This brings you to the top of the falls and the rest of the trail towards Nevada Falls. Watching the top of this thing is so fascinating because the water seems to flow over the top so gently, but in actuality, Vernal Falls was absolutely raging. No words I have can speak to the view at the top, so I won't sit here and try to come up with a bunch of adjectives. Just look at this thing. If you take a slight detour to the left of the trail, you'll be able to get up close to the river, which does something here that I've never seen a river do before. It just effortlessly flows over this gradual slope at a blistering pace. It's honestly the most satisfying section of river I've ever seen. Right after this, there's also an unnamed cascade of some sorts that in itself is more prominent than most waterfalls. This was also where we saw our first of many species of squirrel in Yosemite National Park. The California ground squirrel is common around California and Oregon and has also recently made a resurgence in Washington and northwestern Nevada. In no time, you'll make your way to the Nevada Falls footbridge that actually does provide a view of Nevada Falls. However, the lighting wasn't the best around here, so we continued on, rock hopped just off trail, and were met with one of the most breathtaking views I've ever seen in my entire life. It didn't take a lot of thought for me. Nevada Falls is the most incredible waterfall I've ever seen. It's absolutely massive at 594 feet tall, and while it was gushing out of control, it also appeared elegant at the same time. I've never seen anything like Nevada Falls before, and I don't think there's very many waterfalls that have the potential to top it for me, at least in the United States. Carrying on to the top of the falls is tough like Vernal Falls steep stairs section, but only this time you're gaining close to double the elevation as that one. Though to compensate, the views of the steep cliffs beside you are absolutely unbelievable. Look at this one with the black streaks everywhere. It was jaw-dropping. If you keep pushing, it'll be no time before you get to the top of Nevada Falls, and there is so much room up there to relax. You can eat a lunch, explore your surroundings, and do what I did, take a rest.
It's a nice warm 80 degrees under the sun today, and I'll tell you, this is about as nice of a place to rest as my very own bed. Absolutely beautiful, and it's so nice out.
Oh, and if you thought the views from the top of Vernal Falls were insane, you haven't seen anything yet. Those who wish to continue to the famous Half Dome may choose to do so, as it's only 4.5 miles from the top of Nevada Falls. But we weren't willing to go that far on our first visit to Yosemite, so that'll have to wait. Remember though, don't turn around, this is not an out and back trail. Cross the bridge and continue on to complete the loop. This route also features some of the craziest views the Mist Trail has to offer, and it meets back up with the top of Vernal Falls. We took another break up here, noticed a bunch more squirrels before heading down to the stairs to take in Vernal one last time. Going in, I was expecting a fun but challenging hike, not my favorite trail I've ever been on. The views are always changing and something's always happening on the Mist Trail. The interactivity with the spray of the falls and the sheer girth of them makes each of them some of my favorite waterfalls I've ever seen. This was an absolutely amazing journey, and I can't recommend it enough if you're visiting Yosemite National Park. We then made our way to Yosemite Falls and got our first views of it on foot. This thing is a monolith of a waterfall standing 2,424 feet tall. Not only does this make it the tallest waterfall in North America, but it's also the 6th tallest waterfall on the planet. The main portion of the fall is a single 1,430 foot drop, and we'd be getting the best views of it while hiking the 7.5 mile out and back trail to the top of the falls tomorrow. Subscribe and turn on post notifications so that you don't miss that video when it drops soon. We decided that we'd walk to the base of the lower falls today, which alone is 320 feet tall. You get some amazing views via a paved walkway and can rock hop to get even closer. It was misty enough to soak you though, and I didn't have a jacket on, so I was pretty freaking cold. We didn't spend too much time here before walking back to our car. To wrap up our day, we made a quick pit stop at the tunnel view as promised, and it was so much better now that the sun was in the right position. This is easily the most photographed and recognizable view in the park, with Bridal Veil Falls to the right, El Capitan to the left, and the valley floor and Half Dome way out in the distance. It's a perfect way to end your day, as you basically get to look out and tell yourself, wow, I just experienced all of that. We had a virtually perfect first day to Yosemite National Park, and highly encourage you to stay tuned for day 2 at the park coming soon. The Upper Yosemite Falls hike is an even more challenging hike than the Mist Trail, and I can't wait for you all to see your experience. So thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you very, very soon. Bye guys.